How do Russians care about those territories they say they came to liberate? Ukraine's wake-up call. European armies aren't ready for the drone wars of today, warns top Kyiv official. We will tell you more in this episode, so you'll be in focus. Don't forget to subscribe and stay with us for the latest updates. A crisis is getting worse in the territories temporarily occupied by Russia, both a humanitarian and environmental one. In Mariupol, which the Kremlin planned to turn into a showcase of the occupation, entire neighborhoods are still in ruins. Russian media have calculated that if the occupation authorities continue working at the current pace, it will take at least 20 years just to rebuild the housing. And that's without counting infrastructure, which mostly has to be built from scratch. More on the consequences of Russian occupation in the next report.
The so-called Ruski Mir, people living under Russian occupation know exactly what that means. During the 2.5 months of the siege of Mariupol in 2022, this city on the Sea of Azov was reduced to rubble by Russian forces. Since then, little has changed, despite the Kremlin's desperate attempts to paint a different picture.
What they show on Russian TV, those are fairy tales for fools. Most of Mariupol is still in ruins. They're fixing up facades along the main streets just for the cameras, but just around the corner, it's all destruction and emptiness. Many people are still living in half-collapsed apartments with walls that are barely holding up. Ole, Mariupol resident, speaking to the BBC.
While state-run TV reports triumphantly on a handful of families receiving keys to refurbished apartments, residents on social media show a starkly different reality. Many say they have nowhere to live at all.
Our home, our apartment, burned to the ground, literally. We didn't take a single thing, not even photos. Everything's gone. And for 3 years now, I've been wandering from place to place with my grandchildren, begging people to take us in. Today, I'm being kicked out of the apartment where someone had let me stay temporarily. People here are in a state of survival. Everyone just wants to leave. Life here is unbearable.
On top of the housing crisis, residents of Russian-occupied Mariupol and surrounding areas are also facing severe water shortages. This is a common problem in cities across occupied Donetsk region. Social media is full of videos showing people desperately trying to stock up on water when they can find it.
I've been living in Donetsk for almost a year now, and we've had all kinds of problems. But now we're facing a full-on water blockade. There's no water from the taps, and they only give us some in the basement every 3 days. Please help us survive. How are we supposed to live without water? How are we supposed to flush our toilets?
Locals have started holding spontaneous protests, talking about a humanitarian disaster and unsanitary conditions. Even the occupation authorities admit the water crisis in Donetsk and surrounding towns hasn't been solved for years. Russia destroyed the infrastructure of the Siversky Donetsk-Donbas Canal, the region's main water supply.
In Makiivka, the schedule says water runs from 5 to 9 p.m.
But it doesn't start until 8.
In 4 hours, there's no way to supply everyone with what they need.
The Donetsk region is on the brink of total water collapse. Factories are barely running. The thermal power plant may soon shut down due to lack of water to cool its systems. That could lead to massive blackouts and full-scale infrastructure failure. Here's what the Kalmius River looks like now. Locals say the Russians have killed the river, once a vital water source for both people and industry.
This whole area used to be underwater. We used to swim here. It was deep. Look at it now. These little islands. It's just a tiny stream now, barely ankle deep.
But the Russian occupation authorities already have a plan for the ruins of Donbas. Instead of rebuilding, they're proposing to preserve the destroyed cities and turn them into tourist attractions, because most of the towns and cities they've captured are beyond repair. And it seems they don't intend to fix them anyway. Natalia Husak, Volodymyr Shtengelov, UATV News.
European armies are not prepared for modern drone warfare. According to the head of Ukraine's Center for Countering Disinformation under the National Security and Defense Council, money, expensive missiles and fighter jets are not the most critical factors in this type of conflict. What matters is a combined approach, and he says only Ukraine truly knows how to fight this kind of war against Russia. Together with Kyiv, NATO can stand up to Putin's increasingly aggressive and provocative tactics. More on this from Yulia Granovska.
A signal to NATO.
Putin appeared in military uniform at the final stage of the Russian-Belarusian exercises, West 2025, on September 16th. This was the second time since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine that he posed for cameras in such attire. The first instance was during a visit to Kursk region in March 2025.
Putin likely attended the September 16th exercises in a military uniform in order to posture Russian-Belarusian military strength against the backdrop of recent Kremlin kinetic and rhetorical escalation against NATO states neighboring Russia, such as Poland and Norway, and repeated Russian threats against the Baltic states and Finland, from a report by the Institute for the Study of War.
To make the hint even clearer, Putin announced that the exercises involved 100,000 military personnel, including soldiers from Bangladesh, India, Burkina Faso, Congo, Mali, and Iran. Foreign troops on Russian or allied Belarusian territory are a source of pride for the Kremlin. However, if Kyiv's partners deploy multinational forces in Ukraine as part of security guarantees, they will automatically become legitimate targets for the Russian army, threatened Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov. Meanwhile, the Federation itself has intensified provocations on the territory of alliance states, moving from hybrid threats to direct actions. Poland was the first target of Russian drone attacks.
Russia has no friendly intentions, to put it mildly. The system there is being restructured for the possibility of war at any moment and against any opponent. This can only be countered with strong global sanctions and our long-range capabilities.
By launching drones at NATO countries, Putin pursues several goals. The first is to test the alliance's resilience and response speed. The second is to demonstrate to European citizens that their current political elites are supposedly incapable of protecting them. And finally, the main goal is to disrupt military aid to Ukraine. The Center for Countering Disinformation under Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council believes that the response to Moscow's provocations should be increased sanctions pressure. NATO must be ready to repel the aggressor.
1. Of course, joint air patrols and shooting down Russian drones over Ukraine to prevent them from entering Europe. 2. Modernization and expansion of armies, readiness for modern mass warfare. This requires an honest dialogue with societies about the threats. 3. Proactive countering of disinformation and cognitive operations against Russia. Because, informationally, Russia is already exploiting divisions in Europe. Andriy Kovalenko, head of the National Security and Defense Council's Center for Countering Disinformation on Telegram.
Violating the borders of NATO allies and pressuring Ukraine are part of the Kremlin's strategy, believes the German chancellor. Concessions to Putin will lead not to peace, but to escalation, says Friedrich Merz. A peace agreement cannot be achieved at the expense of Ukraine's political sovereignty and territorial integrity.
Eine Kapitulation würde Putin nur dazu
An imposed peace, a peace without freedom, will only encourage Putin to seek his next target. We have seen how real this threat can be with the violation of Polish and Romanian airspace in recent days. These events are part of a broader trend in Germany and Europe. Putin has long been testing the boundaries of what is permissible. He sabotages, spies, kills, and tries to destabilize. Russia wants to destabilize our societies. But ladies and gentlemen, we will not let this happen, neither externally nor internally.
NATO understands that Ukrainians possess unique experience in countering Russia. Therefore, the European Union intends to create a drone alliance with Ukraine, funded with 6 billion euros, stated European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. Immediately after the Russian drone attack on Poland, President Volodymyr Zelensky offered to share with partners the experience of repelling attacks by the aggressor country's army. Additionally, Poland launched large-scale exercises of armored and air forces called Iron Gates. The maneuvers will take place at the Orzes training ground, located approximately 100 kilometers from the strategic Suwałki corridor. Around 30,000 soldiers and 600 pieces of equipment from Poland and NATO countries are involved. Reported by Yulia Hranovska, UATV News.
What's your take on all this? Share with us below. This is UATV. Stay sharp, in focus, and stay safe.